We have our first Godzilla review in quite a while, and this is Godzilla The
Episode
Series,
7.
Episode 7, Leviathan. Um,
Pretty cool episode.
yeah, pretty cool episode. What'd you think?
Yeah, I liked it. It's, Godzilla, aliens, it's something that's been done since the show at time. So,
It is. To me, though, it was something I was watching it, and I was like, could you imagine if they got a second American Godzilla film and like this is what they started with? Like this was the open, like this episode
yeah,
was the first 30 minutes of that movie.
yeah, like this, it would have played like it would have played like almost like Aliens Undersea, which is what this episode is. It
Yeah.
starts off with a research submarine discovering a ship underwater that turns out this alien ship has been underwater for 10 million years based off the rocks and everything about around it, and we quickly find out that it was indeed there 10 million years. But the way they're tracking the ship is through tachyon waves. uh, so we see that in the opening. These scientists go on the ship and are soon pulled by tentacle things, and we don't really see what's going on there in the opening. And then we get the Heat Crew.
Yeah. So they show up and
They're doing the same exact thing.
the same thing is always like, you're like, oh yeah, there's these tachyons going on, and it's I understand. It's like one of those things. Just like I understand, it's a kids show. I
Yeah,
understand, but when characters like Craven and Randy still have the same fights where they don't respect each other's intelligence, meanwhile they've already had episodes that show you that like they've resolved their issues.
yeah,
Like it does. This is like a bit of a disconnect sometimes, but I guess they used Randy as like the he doesn't know what tachyons are, so we're gonna explain them thing. So basically, they're like energy particles that move faster than the speed of light, and Earth's technology is just catching up to the point where they can track them, and that's how they're able to find this ship. And Craven is like a fan of this doctor that they're trying to save.
yes. Doctor, what's his? I forgot his name. Doctor.
I forgot. I forgot.
I wrote his name.
Polarin?
Yes, Polarin. Polarin. Yes,
Polarin.
Polarin.
So they pretty quickly they find his ship. They go on board. The captain of the ship is like, "Hey, I was told not to interfere, no matter what."
And they're like, oh, they've been down there for 3 days, and we haven't heard from them.
Yeah.
And then they're like, well, we're gonna go down.
Yeah. So they go. They get a submersible from them. Godzilla's helping them out on the way down, and as they're like on their way down, there's these like
They're like
I don't know what's
Plesiosaurus type.
yeah, like Plesiosaurus type of.
They call them Cryptocletus. They're like a Plesiosaur type species.
Cryptocletus?
Yeah, that have been extinct for like millions of years, but they're down there. And during all this, Randy's having like a panic attack because he's scared of the tight spaces and being that deep underwater. And Monique is like somehow calms him, and he's like, "Oh, how did you do that?" And she's like, "I just know how." And it's like, they have something going on. There's chemistry with the two of them, so like they're gonna have a thing eventually. And that's how she got him to calm down, in my opinion, because she's like, "Oh, he's a guy. I know how to work him." So yeah, they encounter these like plesiosaur things. Godzilla intervenes, fights them off, and they keep going. They get to the ship, and they're like, "How do we get on this thing?" And they're like, "Oh, it looks like you just kind of connect over there." So they park the submarine, and sure enough, the submarine attaches to this alien spaceship, and they get out, and they are confronted by like these reptilian-looking dog things that are like on the ship guarding, and they kind of like run away from them. These like doors are kind of just opening because like walls look like walls are really just kind of like fleshy walls and doors.
Yeah. And then like some of them have like portal
Yes.
technology to
And
them.
yeah, then they end up fleeing the dogs, and they end up finding the Dr. Prelorn, and he kind of gives them the whole scoop on the aliens. He's like, yeah, the aliens have been preserving dinosaurs and made these dogs by crossbreeding dinosaurs, so that's what these creatures are. And it turns out the ship's actually been there 65 million years, not even 10 million years. So we get 10 million from Dr. Prolon at the beginning. He's like, oh, that's shit. It seems like it's been here over 10 million years, but he finds out from the aliens that it's been 10 million years
65
and
million.
65 million years. And they're like, how do you know this? And he's like, oh, there's still some of them are awake on the ship, but most of them are still in stasis. And he's like, oh, he's like, I'm good. He's like, I've sided with the aliens, and he's like, they want to assimilate the Earth cities to cater to the aliens' needs, and I think it's the right thing to do. And Craven is kind of like, what? This isn't like what you're about, though. Like, so he's basically saying that the humans are going to become slaves to these aliens. The aliens are going to force peace. And one of the cool things about these aliens to mention is they're actually all voiced by Ron Perlman.
I thought they were. I
Yes.
didn't look at the credits, but I'm like,
Yes, he voiced the aliens and then the captain as well. That was like, no, you can't go down there. We were ordered not to go down
yeah, I
there.
thought that it was Ron Perlman, but I'm like, no. I'm
Yeah,
like, it's not Ron
it
Perlman.
was Ron Perlman. Yeah, yeah.
And he
So
has a very distinct voice.
yeah, so Craven's kind of all bummed about it. The whole Heat team gets taken, and like Perlorn's kind of like, I know Craven, you're kind of like me, so like you could join us. You could help make this world amazing, great. And Craven like seems like he's gonna go side with him since Perlorn's his idol. But then Cradle kind of like swaps out Nigel's chip with one of Randy's ships, and Nigel goes crazy and destroys an alien console, and a bunch of the tachyons begin to like kind of like fall, and Nick and the rest of the Heat crew are freed from this field that the aliens were holding them in, and Perlorn then kind of like helps them escape, but then he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna sacrifice myself." But then it seemed like he went into like a portal as this ship's like just falling apart. It went
Yeah,
pretty fast. The whole ship thing went like really quick. They went from, "Oh, we're taking over the world," to Nigel destroyed the ship just like
yes.
that.
Which is how he died this episode.
Yes, Nigel kamikazed himself.
Yeah, but they kept his head, so they're just gonna rebuild him for next episode.
Yes. So they get into like this squid-like escape pod, and the plesiosaur things are about to attack them again. The sum is two of them. Godzilla has a little fight sequence with the two of them. It was a very Godzilla-light episode. There was a lot of human aliens, like very grounded-ish, I would say, episode.
Yeah, which
And
is kind of like why I was saying like this would be a good like first 30 minutes to a Godzilla movie
yeah,
because you don't need to show him through the whole
yes.
movie.
And they also escaped with the two of Perlorn's members that were on the initial ship with Perlorn. I forgot to mention that the two members that did dock the ship with Perlorn did survive, but they kind of, it looks like they're under mind control by the aliens, because they're like, oh, we got to be careful now that we know aliens are out there. We never know what could happen or if they'll come back. And then it kind of like shows them standing behind the Heat team with like glowing eyes, kind of teasing like, yeah, the aliens are gonna be back.
Yeah, and then also they're like, oh yeah, we're just gonna not tell anybody about this and just leave all this wreckage here.
Yes, because they were like, oh, it's like super like, yeah, they're like, oh, that's super high technology. It could be dangerous in the wrong hands.
So then the
So
aliens are like, bet.
yeah, exactly.
um, I like this episode. I, we haven't watched this series in such a long time. I'm assuming this might be like a precursor episode to the Monster Wars
I'm not sure.
arc. I don't know.
I mean, between we have Winter with his mutants, and now we have the aliens. We have some villains forming
We
throughout
do.
this series that are being teased, which is really cool.
Yeah, only 7
So
episodes in, and I feel like there's multiple future storylines set up. So, we're gonna have to see where this goes. I thought this was another great episode. a little bit more serious, a lot less comedy in it.
Yes.
I felt like so.
When it
And
involved the slavery of humankind.
yeah, usually if this episode felt longer, not because it was boring, but like I feel like a lot of these episodes are usually like action packed, like one thing after another.
Yeah.
This one I felt like they kind of slowed down, explained what was going on. There's a human heavy plot.
Yeah.
So
It would like you were saying earlier, if this was released as the second Godzilla movie, if it started off like this, it would have started off almost like a horror, like with these scientists getting taken and they're going on this fleshy alien spaceship underwater with these dogs chasing them, tentacles coming out trying to grab them. It's very hard. It reminds me almost of the game Prey back in the day.
yes, very similar.
Yeah, and humans being enslaved by aliens. It's just not very Godzilla-ish. It's very more horror elements than Godzilla in this, which is pretty cool. Very cool
Yeah.
that they were able to do this back then. Just have this range.
I was very happy with this episode. I can't wait to see what's going on next with the series. This is definitely like a series that's been slower to review than I would have expected, but it's like every episode's been great in its own way.
Yeah,
I really can't say that
absolutely.
there's been a stinker yet.
No.
Yeah, hopefully it doesn't happen.
Yeah, I mean this and the only two episodes that didn't have like kaiju. I mean, this had the plesiosaurs in it, like briefly, but there's only this and the winter episode, and the two of them seem like those two episodes are the two episodes setting up future villains.
Yeah. Yeah, so it takes away from that like one-off plot thing, that they're
Yes.
building.